Okay, so we are going to talk about urbanization once again, and this is the fourth and last lecture on urbanization. So, if you have any doubt in your mind regarding what we have discussed so far or what we are going to discuss today, you can ask at the end of the lecture. So far we have talked about definition of urban and rural populations, measurements of urbanization, and causes of urbanization, push pull factors, push back factors and related issues. And today we will talk more about the future of urban processes and what kind of new trends are seen in urban management, and we will talk this about mostly in the context of India. So, this lecture focuses on factors which may speed up or slow down the pace of urbanization in the future, the issue of diversity, diversity with respect to socio-economic background, work, culture, linguistic differences, sex ratio, identity, politics and related things. Then issues in urban sociology. Sociology means specifically talking about social institutions in urban and rural contexts, family, marriage, kinship, friendship, politics, organization. Then problems of urban governance, which is going to be a very serious problem in years to come. It has already become a serious problem, and so the other day when I mentioned about Jawaharlal Nehru urban renewal mission, there was a recognition of the fact that something has to be done to improve the governance of urban areas. We will see some slide today which will show how urban governance has become a problem, and more so in the context of large cities. Then participation in urban governance on the part of civil society actors as a new tool of urban governance. If time permits, we will talk about the role of Residents Welfare Association or RWAs, which is a new institution of participation recently developed in some large cities like Delhi and Bangalore. The factors in urbanization which will shape the future of urbanization, some of them are as follows, that there are diversities between cities and towns. So, all cities do not have or all towns do not have the same socio-economic composition of population or culture. Actually, there is lot of diversity within cities also. So, old Hyderabad, new Hyderabad, old Delhi, new Delhi, old Kanpur, new Kanpur, old Mumbai, Navi Mumbai. There are diversities between as well as within cities and towns. Then there are large cities which have grown faster. Tiny towns have grown at a small pace or they have declined in many cases. Then diversity in employment is a factor, and I will show a table, table 7.3, which show the differences in proportion of employed persons in urban areas of different sizes, which will show how different cities and towns have different types of composition of employed persons. Then in the future more people may move to larger cities and towns which have better employment potential. Since more migrants in India are attracted towards cities for the reason of employment. So, if more employment is produced by large cities, then obviously large cities are going to attract more migrants. Of course, the rate of growth of cities will depend on both natural increase and rural to urban migration. For large cities, you can also include migration from smaller cities or tiny towns to large cities. Better employment potential here mean employment rate This is the first and foremost thing. What proportion of people are employed, unemployed or underemployed. So, if the employment rate goes up, then the employment potential of the city also goes up, and the news spreads that there are more jobs and better quality jobs or formal or jobs with social security. So, possibility of finding a job is not the only factor. Other factors therefore are quality of employment. Whether employment is in the organized sector or unorganized sector, whether it is formal or informal, whether it offers social security, pension benefits, provident funds, health benefits, insurance or travel facilities or facilities for children's education, these related things. Then employment is also associated with living conditions, infrastructure facilities of the city in which employment is created. For rational potential rural to urban migrants, there can sometimes be trade off between wage rate or employment condition and condition of city, and in condition of city you can include infrastructure, social capital, networks, social institutions, people of the same language or culture already living in that city, then security and distance from the native place. According to Reimerstein's laws of migration, most people like to travel short distances, and that is still true. So, and then networks, whether people have networks in that city. There is a law of migration which says that migration is usually in the form of chains, and chain means from village to small town to moderate size or medium sized town, from medium size to large town. And in all migratory processes, acquaintances, people belonging to the same native place, people belonging to same linguistic or caste or community divisions play an important role. So, there is a role of networks. People will decide in which direction to move based on employment and quality of employment and living condition of the city and networks. So, if there by networks I mean suppose other factors are same, then a Bengali would like to move to a city where already lots of Bengalis are living, and not to a place where he would be the first Bengali. And this table shows how employment of people differs from one urban area to another according to size of city or town. In class 1 cities among males, the employment rate is 762, means out of 1000 persons, males, out of 1000 males, 762 in the age group 15 and above are employed. In class 1 cities among females, the similar figure of employment among 15 and above is only 198. Overall employment is 498. Size 2 towns have lower employment rate among males and higher employment rate among females. Here we are not distinguishing between nature of employment. This is NSSO data according to usual status. Normally, whether normally people are employed or unemployed. Then size 3 town, employment rate among males is highest, among females also it is highest. Now, actually it becomes complex to interpret statistical data pertaining to socio-economic activities, because lot of factors affect these kinds of ratios. One reason why in class 1 cities employment is less, maybe more because more people are in 15 plus are studying or are getting training of various sorts, and not necessarily because unemployment rate is more in larger cities as compared to class 3 towns. But it certainly shows that there are differences between males and females, and there are also some small differences between employment rates according to size of city. Factors, capital and amenities. Capital means financial capital and amenities means facilities. These availability of funds, availability of financial capital and availability of various types of amenities are also factors which provide impetus to growth of some selected cities. Other factors remaining same, maybe sometime administrative cities can attract more migrants than cities where there is more of unorganized sector. Although no such rule can always be made, maybe if there is more unemployment among unskilled or semi-skilled people, and they are obviously not likely to get a job in administrative city, they are not educated, they are not skilled. So, they will move more toward those cities or those towns where there is more growth of unorganized sector or slums or self-employment. There are significant differences in amenities between cities and towns of different sizes, and that is definitely going to make a difference to growth of these cities and towns. Cities and towns with better amenities are obviously going to be more attractive than cities and towns where amenities are less. It can also be said that cities participate in global network of exchange of capital, technology, labor and information, and there is a synergistic relation therefore between international markets and cities, and those cities which are in the network of global cities or global industry or global capital or global knowledge, global technology are going to grow at a faster rate than other cities and towns which are say of religious significance or they are simply market towns or they are administrative towns without having technological and industrial advancement, without getting involved into the global culture and flow of capital and technology. If you look at amenities, it is very clear that class 1 cities provide better amenities. Toilet facility, 2001 household data show that in class 1 cities 80.38% households have toilet, while in class 5 as I have already defined in previous lectures, class 1 means 100,000 plus, class 2 means 50 to 100,000, class 3 means 20 to 50, class 4 10 to 20 and then 5 to 10. So, this class 5 which is a small town, their percentage of households having toilet is only 53, in class 1 it is 80, and as the size of town declines you can see that the amenities also decline in the same proportion. That means, if you have the same chance of getting employment in a class 5 or class 1 urban area, you would prefer to go to class 1 urban area where chance of having amenities of this kind is more. Drinking water, class 1 is better in drinking water. 89% households in class 1 cities have access to clean drinking water. In class 5 there is only 78.77%. In kerosene, class 1 21, actually this does not mean that 21.63% households have access to kerosene. This does not mean that 79% are without kerosene. This means that for 79% other households there are other sources of energy, electricity, mainly electricity. In class 5 you have 9.24 dependent on kerosene, LPG 56, more than half of the households in class 1 have LPG cylinders. In class 5 the percentage is only 26, 1 in 4. However, in terms of some other facilities like infrastructural facilities, drainage, in drainage you find that class 1 cities are in the worst condition, while class 4 cities or class in best condition are class 2. 73% households have drainage facility, but in class 1 only 56.85% households have drainage facility. That means urban areas differ according to they differ in amenities according to size of city.
So this is a very interesting table and it gives us a very clear cut idea about the amenities available in class 1 and class 5 cities. But sir, my question is, when we talk about class 1 cities, we expect that the data should have been higher. Why is like 80% in toilets and 89% in, we expect it to be 95 or higher. So why is this lack in?
Actually, this relates to that issue which we discussed in last 3 lectures, that urbanization in less developed countries is of a very different kind. It is not because urban town or city is a seat of modernization, advancement or economic development. It is large more because of rural to urban migration caused by demographic transition. So, people are coming to urban areas even though urban areas cannot accommodate them, and more large cities in the country are facing problem of infrastructure. That is why Jawaharlal Nehru Urban Renewal Mission. Now, for people migrating from population surplus areas, means rural areas, to cities, there was a hope of better life, though for some it turned out to be a nightmare and they were pushed back. Now, in the recent past, when we look at the condition in Mumbai, in Bangalore, in Chennai, even in some cities of Madhya Pradesh, unexpected of all the cities, we find that there is growth in regionalism, and son of soil politics may prevent the growth of urban areas in the future. This is clear that India will urbanize further, but there is no doubt about this, but it is difficult to say which model of growth it will follow and in which direction rural to urban will migrate. Due to demographic transition or population pressure, you can only say that from these states or from these regions or from rural areas, people are bound to migrate in search of better opportunities, but the direction will be decided by all these factors combined: employment, capital, amenities, political stability, presence or absence of regionalism, and quality of jobs. So, future may be different, and there will remain diversity in levels and patterns of urbanization between different regions of the country. At the some regions may welcome migrants, some regions may repel migrants. At the same time, decentralization and transfer of fiscal authority and responsibility of services from national to local units of the government implies that smaller towns play increasingly more important role. Rurban, here you can see smaller towns as rurbans. Then central and state governments are increasingly concerned about rapid growth of large cities and would like to decelerate migration towards them. It is quite likely that successful implementation of Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Act can reduce the rate of migration from rural to urban areas. So, in the future things are uncertain. You can't even say that whether migration will proceed further or not, or at what rate. It all depends on the speed of demographic transition in rural areas. Suppose in rural areas also fertility starts declining fast, as it has happened in several states. So, the natural growth rate of rural areas is going to decline, and that will affect the process of rural to urban migration. In addition, if policies like NREGA are successful, then this will reduce the rate of rural to urban migration, and thus the process of urbanization may decelerate. But if it takes more time for states like Bihar and UP to proceed further on demographic transition, or if due to corruption, lack of governance, lack of transparency, or lack of proper planning, uh, or weaknesses of Panchayati Raj institutions, we are not able to implement rural development programs effectively, then the migration may be large and the urban areas may grow faster. These policies like NREGA are going to play an important role for the future of urbanization in India. There are factors which may retard the process of urbanization: identity politics, in addition to demographic factors of natural growth and implementation of rural development policies. There are other factors like identity politics, hostility towards outsiders, coupled with contractualization of labor and mass unemployment. Lack of open space in large cities where the migrants built illegal settlements in the past. A few months before, I was discussing about migration and urbanization with an expert of Tata Institute of Social Sciences, Mumbai, and I was giving my demographic and economic arguments behind reduction in rate of rural to urban migration. But my expert friend told me that one major reason in Mumbai why migrations seems to have decelerated in the recent past, that there is no open space now where the migrants could come and build their settlements as they did in the past. Now, flyovers, malls, modern offices, skyscrapers, multi-storied buildings. So, everywhere the density of buildings, high-rise buildings, modern buildings and infrastructure is so high that migrants cannot find a place to live. There may be places for work, like wherever there is high density of population in residential areas, in colonies, they may still need domestic servants, casual workers and suppliers of various facilities. But if there is no place for them to live, and if they have to live 15 or 20 kilometers away from the workplace, then this discourages migration. So, even this factor, lack of open space in large cities where the migrants built illegal settlements in the past, slums, squatter settlements, could be a factor in encouragement or discouragement of migration in cities. Then expansion of IT industry, improved city planning and increasing vulnerability of migrants to various risks in the cities would also discourage people from migrating towards cities. This will mean that migration flows may change direction. In place of going to city A, they may like to go to city B. In place of going to state A, they may like to go to state B. So, in place of going to Maharashtra, migrants may choose to move towards Gujarat or towards Haryana or towards Madhya Pradesh. These kinds of changes in directions of flows may take place. Potential migrants would find Delhi, Bangalore, Mumbai, Chennai and Kolkata less attractive than in the past and move towards other cities or newly developed cities or urban outgrowths or peri-urban areas or new industrial towns where they have a greater chance of finding employment and of facing hostility from localites. To quote the Committee on Population, a paradox of globalization is that while creating more linkages and interdependencies, it also underscores the importance of comparative advantage of the subnational and local levels. Transnational corporations become increasingly aware of the niche where cheap and reliable labor can be found and learn in detail of the constraints of local transport and infrastructure. Hence, when seen from a global corporate perspective, the cities of low income countries are likely to appear increasingly diverse. There is no need for global capital to concentrate in hitherto large cities. So, this is about flow of migration and rate of urbanization. Now, the issues in sociology of urban population, actually this is only an introductory lecture, otherwise all these topics are so big that we need to spend 1 or 2 days on each of them. The issues in sociology of urban population are urban poverty, slums and squatter settlements, then the informal sector, family. What is happening to family in urban areas? Is nucleation of family taking place only in urban areas, or it is part of modernization in the whole country? What proportion of households are of what type in rural areas, in urban areas, and in urban areas of different sizes? Then the problem of nutrition and health. Is there a link between city or size of city and nutrition, anemia, stunting, height weight ratio, height age ratio, weight age ratio, infant mortality, neonatal mortality, female feticide, maternal mortality ratio, life expectancy and so on. Then encounters with modernity. What is the level of modernization and what kind of modernization exists in cities of different types and in cities in different geographical areas in the country. Then identity of gender, caste, what is the place of identity, how does identity change the nature of social movements. These days sociologists have started talking about new social movements more than old social movements. This is because while the old social movements mobilize more on the basis of class, the new social movements are mobilized on the basis of identity, and identity is not fixed. There are several identities, are in transition, identities can be conflicting or synergistic, gender, caste, class, language, social exchange, networks. There are different types of identities, and new social movements are based on classes. Migration and transformation of self, this is another issue of sociology. Self image, self actualization, construction of self, more use of symbolic interactionism in this respect. Then housing, material of walls, roof, number of rooms per house, whether there are separate bedrooms, kitchen, toilet. Then entrepreneurial patterns in different cities and urban planning and governance. The major in governance, which has become the real or the most talked about issue in urban studies, and the challenges are the capacity dimension, capacity to provide adequate services. Are cities having capacity to provide adequate services to existing population and also to new rural to urban or small place to large place settlers or migrants. Then the financial resources dimension, most municipal corporations, municipalities, town area committees, notified areas are facing the financial resources crunch, and in a condition of financial resource crunch, what kind of infrastructure can they develop? Behind financial crunch, again there are issues related to governance, corruption, quality of workforce, lack of commitment, lack of motivation. Then the diversity dimension, fragmentation of population, the security dimension, social capital. In social capital can be seen at several levels: household level, informal community level and informal institutions. Authority dimension and the local participation. Social scientists are concerned about declining state responsiveness to social claims. Increasingly, you find that state is withdrawing from say employment, from many things for which state stood in the past. Now, state wants to spend more on law and order, on services, on social things, education, health, rather than the purely economic things of employment or wages or income. Then there is shift from ideology based parties to charismatic and populist leaders. This is also affecting urban governance. Inability of the existing structures of representations to provide poorer social groups to influence state policy. There is lot of literature to show that the elected representatives are more influenced by the elite classes or the upper classes or the bourgeoisie or those coming from elite localities or colonies. There is crisis in popular representations among the low and middle income groups which feel alienated, urban slums, inability to protect basic rights, that governance is not able to protect basic rights of people, law and order are included, employment is included, security is included, education is included. Then employment and livelihood problems, for poor it is getting difficult to build organizations. So, for these reasons then poor are outside the beneficiaries, major beneficiaries of governance of urban areas. John Harris conducted a study of Delhi in 2005. In 2005 this was an article based on that study was published in Economic and Political Weekly. The title of that paper was Political Participation, Representation and the Urban Poor, Findings from Research in Delhi. He seems to be quite hopeful. So, what I said that there is frustration, there is alienation among the poor classes, among slum dwellers, and the policies are influenced more by upper classes, elite classes and middle class colonies. John Harris says something opposite. John Harris says that social movements as new political engagements have been quite successful in solving the problems of urban poor. So, while looking at urban conditions, he gives equal importance or maybe more importance to social movements than to social institutions of governance. He said that based on his statistical study of data collected in this study in Delhi, he said that there is a negative relationship between income and participation in Delhi. That in Delhi, those belonging to lower socioeconomic groups participate more in influencing city or state policies than people belonging to middle and upper classes who seem to be indifferent to issues of governance. Social movements rather than unions, voluntary associations rather than political parties and local rather than national concerns are becoming more important. So, while there is a weakening due to rise of charismatic or populist leadership and seemingly lack of differences in ideologies of political parties, lack of capital, infrastructure and lack of governance and due to corruption, while there is institutional decay, this is more than compensated by social movements and participation of people, and that too those people belonging to lower socioeconomic groups. This is John Harris, and he must be his study must be quite convincing, as John Harris is a Marxist sociologist. So, and this he is saying on the basis of survey data and statistical analysis of that data which was collected from Delhi. The results of his logistic regression, he used binary logistic regression model, and he says that there is a strong neighborhood effect. that those living in jhuggi jhopris are very much more likely than the residents of other types of colonies to be active problem solver. Middle classes and upper classes are less participative, they are not so active as problem solver in Delhi. Second, women in general and all those who are outside the labor force, outside the incentives, are very much less likely to be active in problem solving than others. So, not only people belonging to lower socio-economic classes, but women as compared to men are more active, and those without education are less likely to be active problem solver. So, what he finds that those people who belong to lower socio-economic groups and more of women, but those who are more educated, more aware, education means more aware, more exposed to new ideas in governance, more exposed to problems, more exposed to possible solutions, those types of people are more active, and richer people are less likely to be active as problem solver, though the income effect is small. Those who are permanent workers are more active in problem solving than casual workers. Maybe casual workers do not identify with the locality, or casual workers lack in confidence or concern or commitment as compared to those who have irregular employment. To quote Harris, poorer and less educated people are also more likely to take part in political events. The more educated among the poor are particularly active in problem solving through government when they are supported by neighbors and friends rather than by associations. So, he also gives importance to neighborhood organizations and informal institutions, friendship circles. There are indications at last that neighborhood associations are significant vehicles of representation for the poorer people as well as for the wealthier citizens of Delhi, and this is a trend that may well accelerate if the Delhi government is successful in extending the Bhagidari scheme to poorer colonies. What is Bhagidari? Bhagidari as per official documents, this is participation in urban governance through consolidation of loose networks of local associations, role in setting priorities of local infrastructure in urban areas, for providing windows of opportunities, engage in activities around urban services. Some people see Bhagidari as a new political movement, as demanding better quality of life and equality for members. So, Bhagidari is emerging as a new concept of urban governance by which neighborhood associations, informal groups of people and voluntary associations of residents can influence state policies in favor of residents in particularly in fields like electricity, water and other major civil services. This document of Bhagidari is available at this. So, you can go to this site and read more on Bhagidari. I do not have to, I have some slides on Bhagidari, but you can due to shortage of time I may not be able to present all of them, but you can go to these pages and read yourself. Now, this Bhagidari has raised several issues. The important ones are related to daily jal boards, water, to prevent water wastage, rainwater harvesting, water bills payment and collection by resident welfare association on behalf of people, solution on development or deployment of water tankers. In summer this becomes an acute problem, replacing old and leaking pipelines, cleaning overhead water tanks and sewage, daily jal board sewage, RWA's role in internal colony sewage system and desilting of sewer lines. So, in water and sewage, bhagidari is playing an important role. Then distribution companies, small distribution companies in the field of electricity, they are also participating, and through bhagidari and resident welfare associations, people are able to influence policies of DISCOMs. Simplified procedures to deal with common meter reading and billing collection, these are issues that have been raised by RWAs. Then coordinating with power distribution companies, most of them private now, small private companies, on handling load shedding, breakdowns, maintaining diary on power supply, breakdown, restoration, street lighting and so on. Then MCD, there are issues related to MCT, sanitation, water and public awareness on sanitation. The other issues are maintenance of community parks, community halls, nalas, prevention of encroachments, illegal encroachments, then house tax payment and collection. These are civic issues, parking inside the colony, removal of stray and dead animals from colony, maintenance of roads and back lanes on regular basis and so on. There are issues pertaining to DDA, Delhi police, NDMC, various issues with NDMC. NDMC also deals with community park, desilting of nalas, parking inside the colony, etc. Then initiatives, the major initiatives under bhagidari are 4: public grievance redressal, district public grievance redressal committee, district public grievance cell, state level public grievance system and public grievance commission. There are 205 registered RWAs in Delhi. This also raises some theoretical issues for sociologists. What is the nature of participation of RWAs? I have read some articles in which relationship between class and RWAs is explored. Are RWAs promoting the interest of upper classes and elite colonies only, or they are also able to do something for poor people, for people belonging to informal sector, self-employed, domestic servants or those living in slums. How much effective they are, and what is the nature of interaction of RWAs with market associations and workers associations. There is a need for an in-depth understanding of RWAs. This is a new area. In sociology recently, Yogesh Atal has identified study of RWAs as an important issue in urban sociology. Not many researches are available in this field, and maybe some of you who later join research career can take up studies of RWAs as part of urban sociology. And whether RWAs as a movement provide an alternative to political representation, something which John Harris maintained. There are also limitations of bhagidari or participatory approach. Exclusive citizenship that hinges on consumption, property and legality. Main goal upgradation of main goal of RWAs in one article based on study of RWAs in Bangalore, they suggested that the main goal of RWAs has become the upgradation of property value of natives, and there is a lack of convergence of interests and there is weak political network. So, this is all that I wanted to say about urbanization today. At the end I can raise some questions. I suppose that after attending these 4 lectures and by going through the references which I gave you, like this reference for bhagidari, you will be able to answer the questions: what is urbanization, what is the relationship between urbanization and demographic transition. You can write an essay on urbanization in India, census definition of urban and rural localities, distinguish between push and pull factors, urbanization in the context of western countries and over urbanization in the context of less developed countries. Then Louis Wirth's concepts of urbanism, nature of cities in less developed countries, the future of urbanization in India, uncertain, diverse, depends on several factors, population is one, role of changing role of state is another, capital, amenities, identity politics, and the changing nature of city morphology. These are some factors which will affect urbanization in the future. Then in the context of urban rural conflict, Lipton's study, maybe you can think of and you can write an essay on how urban areas exploit rural areas. What is that link? Through what link urban areas are able to exploit rural areas? This is not a new subject. Even Gandhiji long back said that urban areas are exploiting rural areas, and the middle classes should stand for those works, lifestyles and values which will promote the interests of rural areas or Gram Swaraj. And why did the larger cities grow faster as compared to smaller ones? This is another issue, although it is not necessary that in the future also this will happen. There are some references which you can read. D'Souza is an important writer in urban studies in India. Then Tim Dyson from London School of Economics, a demographer. There are Government of India reports. Indiresan writing about urbanization in Indian context. Perry Jonathan on social transformation in South Asia, and Registrar General site for census data. Sandhu, he has written a book on city and slums in the context of Amritsar. Then there is an article by S. P. Sharma published in Population and Environment Bulletin, which tells about nature of urbanization in India. There are UN sources, and all of you, because you are a student of sociology, all of you should read the concept of urbanism as given by Louis Wirth. This for elementary understanding of the concept, going through this site is enough, but you must also read the original book by Louis Wirth to understand in what sense, in what sociological institutional sense the term urbanization was used by Louis Wirth. So, this is all. I hope you have some questions and I would be able to answer them.
Thank you, sir, for your lectures on urbanization, and since your lectures were so explicitly drawn that there are very few questions that I have doubts, you can say. Just as I'll start with the smallest one. So, as we say, there are urban slums. Do we also have rural slums?
Yeah, very interesting. A few years ago, I thought that the slums is only a rural phenomenon. Sorry, I thought that slums is only an urban phenomenon. And Registrar General Census, Registrar General India conducting censuses also reports figures of percentage slums in different cities of India. In connection with some research work related to rural development, I visited Haryana and Punjab, and for the first time I was astonished to see large rural slums or slum like structures, small huts without toilet or other facilities, small huts of migrants in the countryside, in rural areas of Haryana and Punjab, inhabited by recent migrants from eastern UP and Bihar, living in pathetic conditions. So, if by slum you mean living in one room without facilities, unsatisfactory conditions, without water, electricity, toilet, without amenities, and several people living and eating and sleeping in the same small room, kacha house, maybe hut, then in several states of India, which attract a lot of rural migrants from other states, you find slums. So, I have myself seen slums in, you can find such rural slums in Jammu and Kashmir, where migrants from North India live. They work for orchards and farmers, cultivators of Kashmir. You can find them in Punjab, Haryana, Gujarat, Rajasthan, wherever rural areas provide opportunities to work for people belonging to other districts or states. You find rural slums. You can also find rural slums in which migrants from neighboring districts or other districts of the same state live. So, if you go to places like Devas or Indore in Madhya Pradesh, which have started industrializing only recently, there also you find slums, and in those slums live people coming from tribal areas of Madhya Pradesh itself, from Guna, from Shivpuri, from Devas itself, from Indore itself, tribal areas which are worst affected by development processes and where people do not have sources of employment. So, you find thousands and lakhs of people moving from such tribal areas or poor traditional agriculture, unirrigated agriculture based areas towards newly constructed townships and industrial towns, and there you have these slums.
And secondly, sir, we have certain civic bodies in cities and towns for maintenance, etc., as you mentioned in some of your slides. Do we have similar civic bodies in rural areas, and how active are they?
Okay. So, you see these the way we defined urban locality on the first day, urban locality was defined as a seat of local administration. So, wherever you have local administration, it may be municipal corporation in large city, it may be municipal body, or it may be railway colony or cantonment board or notified area or town area, you have city or urban area. In rural areas you have gram panchayat. So, the work which is done by municipal bodies in urban area, the same work is done by panchayat, gram panchayat on behalf of gram sabha.
And sir, I had a question regarding political stability that you mentioned. In big cities now we have these corporates coming up, and they provide private jobs. So, is there any relation between political stability and these kind of private sector jobs? Do we see any such relation or no? Hardly any relation.
I have not thought about this issue.
Yeah, because you mentioned their effect on public sector, so I was just wondering.
What I mentioned was that suppose either as a job seeker in organized sector, in IT sector like Wipro or Infosys, or maybe in informal sector, when you have to choose about destination, whether you should go to Mumbai or Bangalore or to a neighboring urban place in your own state, then you also look at the climate, you also look at condition of living in that city or urban area. You look at how secure people of your state, your linguistic group are. If you hear so many stories, maybe rumors, if you hear stories, rumors about exploitation of migrants or attacks on migrants, or that migrants are generally insecure at that place of destination, then you will be discouraged to move towards those cities. Many at one time I have seen in IIT students, I have seen among those whom I know, educated urban middle class youth, that at one time there was glamour of moving towards Bangalore, because in Bangalore they thought that first job may fetch a smaller salary, but there is more opportunity to move from one job to another or to rise. but now when they hear about rising civic problems in Bangalore, then they feel that if they can find commensurate job in Gurgaon, which is close to their house, close to their city or state, they would like to move more towards Gurgaon. So, in this IT sector also, nowadays more preference is given to those cities which are close relatively at less distance to place of their parents or the native place.
And sir, lastly, I would like you to comment on whether what is the situation in the 11th 5-year plan about urbanization. How is it projecting urbanization?
11th 5-year plan assumes that in the future rate of urbanization will be more than it was in the past, and 11th 5-year, there is no chapter on urbanization as such. You find data or policies on development of urban areas in different chapters. There is no specifically nothing. If you want to know more about urban policy, you better go to Ministry of Urban Development website, and there you will know about urban renewal mission and related issues. But 11th 5-year plan assumes that in years to come the rate of urbanization will increase. The speed of urbanization between 91 and 2001 was 0.8% per year. Now, we assume that it will be more. Registrar General a few years back suggested that we have already reached a level of 29%. In 2001 our level of urbanization was 27.8, then we have already reached 29. This is what Registrar General projected, and we can be sure that 2011 census will give a figure of urbanization close to 30, but they are assuming that urbanization will rise faster, and 11th 5-year plan is more worried about declining urban infrastructure and amenities. So, there are specific plans for improvement of infrastructure and amenities. Same thing you will find in Ministry of Urban Affairs website, that in urban planning they are more worried about infrastructure and amenities.